Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Sandeep Acharya on the line, and he is founder and CEO over at Octave Therapy. Sandeep, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Adam.
All right. So a lot to talk about here today, of course. We're definitely going to get into Octave Therapy and the work that you're doing. But to get us kicked off here, whenever I see that term founder, man, I got to know, were you always an entrepreneur? Like, where did that start for you?
Well, as I learned, I was watching some home videos from my parents, and my first time trying to start something, I convinced my parents I could hitch my tricycle to trains, and I had built an invention. So apparently I've been doing this my whole life.
Hold on. What age was that? That's young, man.
I was 5 years old, and I just saw this home video. I'm like, was I really pitching ideas at 5? Yeah, I was pitching ideas at 5.
Dang. Where do you get that from? Was it like family entrepreneurs or otherwise, or just born with it? Who knows? Where'd you get that from?
That's a good question. You know, my mom's side of the family has a lot of creative folks, and I've always loved building stuff. You know, when I was 13, I started playing. Both my parents were programmers, and so I started playing with the computers and realized like that the internet was going to be a thing. And we pitched a real estate developer that he should list his properties online, but he didn't want to at the time.
What year was this roughly, just so I can have some context?
The age. So I was early 90s. So I was 13 years old.
So this is early, and both your parents were programmers, so you actually knew what was going on, or at least had some influence to it. Go ahead, continue. I was just trying to get a timestamp on that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, both my parents were programmers at Bell Lab, and it's a place where a lot of innovation was happening. And so I just kind of really liked the idea that innovation could make things better, you know, for society. And, you know, I didn't really pursue that professionally for a while, but I was a musician for a few years. So I was an R&B singer and I was signed to a label in LA in the early part of my 20s. But I went back to business school and was thinking about how I could be creative but also help people. And that's when I found healthcare. You know, even then I spent some time working at a startup before I decided to start a company. I worked at a company called One Medical, which offers really, really high quality primary care. And that's where I kind of first started noticing a few things. Like first, primary care doctors were telling me that people were dealing with anxiety and depression very often, and that they didn't really have places to send those patients. Personally, I was using therapy for the first time to manage, you know, some of the things that I was going through in my life. And then a good friend of mine was dealing with a traumatic incident, and he couldn't find help. And it took him 7 years to go from dealing with alcoholism for the first time to actually getting help. And I just saw how costly that was. And so, you know, I started getting, you know, interested in researching the problem of why our mental health system makes really high quality and affordable care so hard to find. And I just thought, you know, it'd be a great way to spend my time to help solve this problem. And so that's what led to me starting Octave 8 years ago. And we've been operating as a therapy care group for 8 years. I've got about 2,500 therapists nationwide. But also, about 3 years ago, we launched a technology product called WiseMatch, which we just announced earlier this year, and I'm happy to share a little bit more about.
Congrats on that, and we'll definitely get into WiseMatch. But before we do, so you obviously like helping people. We got that. I got that. And you see the need in the healthcare side of things, especially around mental health. How did you know this was going to be like a profession for you? And the reason I ask is because a lot of entrepreneurs get ideas. They get to, you know, we all chase things, right? And we're like, oh, this looks good sometimes. And I shouldn't say we all. Maybe you were different. I'll speak for myself. I chase things. Yeah. How did you know this was going to be the one that you were going to spend like a significant amount of time on and build?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I spent a lot of time researching it. And what I noticed was that my interest was growing, not declining. You know, a lot of us have ideas, but it's the thing that you can't stop thinking about that I think is worth chasing. And it was interesting because when I started Octave, I had job offers to do other things. But I felt like I would have so much regret if I didn't chase the idea of trying to make the mental health system more accessible. So that's what kind of made me feel like I had no choice. I had to do it.
Yeah. I'm always interested around like support groups and just the people that are around you. Like when you decided to kind of like make that leap, you had other offers, as you just mentioned, and you know, maybe some of those could have been a little bit more, you know, not going the startup route or other things you could have did that would have maybe provided a little bit more safety. What was your support group around you like that kind of made you confident enough to just go and do it?
So my wife is going to give me a hard time, but truthfully at the time, she was like, don't do this.
Shout out to the wife. I'm sorry.
But, you know, to her credit, once she knew that I was not going to give it up, I mean, because I had two small children at the time. Once she knew I was not going to give it up, she was super supportive. And I just have a lot of friends who are either investors in small companies or started companies themselves whose brain I could pick. And there's in particular, there's a small group of healthcare leaders who I meet every year, and just hearing the stories of how they started their company just got me really excited. And yeah, so I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by people who have been successful starting healthcare companies and whose like both success and failure I've been able to learn from in my own journey. So that's been very helpful.
That's wonderful. So take us into the founding part. So now you're starting Octave. Like what next for you in building this thing?
So what we did was we said, hey, you know what? We're going to start measuring whether or not people are getting better, and we're going to demonstrate that we can offer higher quality care. And that was successful. That helped us through our first 4 or 5 years. But one of the things that started happening was I looked at what was happening in the industry, and what I noticed is that billions of dollars had been spent trying to fix the mental health care system, but people's outcomes weren't improving. 8 years ago, 40% of patients quit in their first month of treatment, and now that number has not changed. At Octave, we're about twice as successful with getting patients to be able to kind of get through treatment successfully. So I started researching like why that was happening, and I realized that basically there was not enough coordination between all the different companies offering mental health care to make sure that people were matched well. And so I came up with this idea, honestly, at 3 a.m. in the middle of a guy's weekend when I was supposed to be taking time off, of creating a universal scheduling system that people could log into their insurance directories and just find the right provider inside their insurance directories. And that's really hard to do. That hadn't been done before. That product idea was about 4 years ago, and that ultimately became WiseMatch, which we've launched formally and are now rolling out to plans across the country this year. But that journey was incredibly difficult,
so
getting to this place. Yeah.
So go further in that, like the development of that. So now you find this idea as undeep, and you're like, okay, well, this hasn't been done before. Did part of you say, well, there's a reason why, or it's just too difficult, or it's not easy to go into something that hasn't been done? Go ahead.
Well, I think at this point, I'm pretty stubborn. So,
I didn't say it. No.
So 4 years ago, when we came up with the idea, I said, well, it's technically possible for many different companies to actually integrate into one scheduling system. And I know insurance companies are going to need this. And so I went to my board and I said, I want to turn into more of a technology company. And to their credit, they said, yeah, we see what you're after. But then I had to go convince new investors to invest in the company. Adam, I was rejected 40 times pitching this idea. They said, your existing business is so successful, why would you launch this? And I tried to explain that we weren't going to be able to achieve our mission without launching this technology product. And fortunately, we had an insurance company, Cigna Ventures, step up and invest in us. And then Evernorth and Cigna are the same company, are part of the same company, ended up becoming our first client to launch this technology. But it took a lot of persistence. It took adjusting and learning as I went. And it's been quite a journey. So after that initial funding, we launched a product for Evernorth in 2024. And slowly we convinced other folks to join us in this. And now WiseMatch has integrations with 160,000 therapists nationwide. And we are rolling this out to plans across the country free of charge this year through partnerships that we will be announcing later this year.
That is absolutely amazing. Take me through the user journey of so we've talked a lot about the creation, what it took to build, some of the challenges in building this and doing something new, going a new direction. I'm curious from the consumer side of things, WiseMatch, you said it's live now. Take me through the user journey. How does somebody use this thing?
Yeah. So first of all, a couple things to know. Cost of mental health care treatment can be really expensive if you're paying cash, right? Several $1,000s. But if you work with your insurance, it can be as little as $10 a session. So people are, by and large, going to their insurance directory websites because they want to make sure that whoever they see takes their insurance.
That makes 40%. That's logical, yeah.
Yeah, 40% of every patient who has insurance tries to access it through their payer portal. So you go to your website, right? You go to the insurance company directory, and there's most insurance companies all insurance companies are actually required to have by law a provider finder. So you go and you look for a provider inside of your insurance company network, and you're presented with a list of 5,000, and it's the address and phone number of all these folks. And the hard part is it's really hard to find the one that's right for you, but it's hard to actually get a hold of one in the first place because sometimes the data that's listed in those directories is not accurate. So you call a number, it's not working. You look for an address, they're no longer there. They moved out of state, and you can go through dozens. In fact, federal staffers a couple years ago went through and found that 86% of the providers that they searched for either were not anymore practicing, not at that address, or we're full. And so it's really common for people to give up there. So that is the journey as it stands. With WiseMatch, what we're doing is you can go to your insurance directory. Let's say you go to Evernorth. Let's say you have Cigna as an insurance. You go to their directory. It asks you a few questions. What are you looking for yourself or a loved one? What are the demographics you're looking for? What are the conditions you're looking for? And then you actually are presented with the provider and times that provider is available. And then you can actually book right then and there. That's the journey. It's as simple as that.
And when somebody needs that, I'm guessing here, but please correct me and add on to this. And if I'm wrong, just be like, Adam, you're totally off. But it would seem to me that when somebody finally, it's not an easy thing to go get help for anything that you need. I don't care if it's, I had an eye infection once, and I'm like, I can't, I'm like, I don't want to go. Like, there's different people like me that feel the same way. So I'm guessing that when somebody gets to that point of even opening up the directory, that's probably like a stopping point if it's not easy to use. Like, and to actual schedule 100%. And to do all these different things. Like, we don't want to, my tags on my car. If I don't want to do it, I don't want it. It's just one of those things. So the fact that this is so easy, just the user adoption, people just finally going to that point of getting help, it sounds to me like that's a super pivotal point. Am I off on any of that, by the way? This is just, I'm playing it out in my head.
100%. And actually, like, if you can go and actually get help, how much better does it feel like you're treated, right?
That
and
little
what we find
toward going in the right direction. You mentioned your friend took many years. Maybe that was a piece of it, is that it wasn't that easy for him to, I don't know. I don't want to project, but, like, I can see it.
Yeah. And especially when you take all that work and you find somebody and they aren't the right fit, which does happen.
Oh, yeah, of course.
If you have to go through that journey again, it can be very intimidating. And so we try to make it as easy as possible. And so, it's a simple thing, but we think it can have profound implications on people's lives. And that's kind of the reason I got into this in the first place.
That's amazing. I love it. It's out now. What kind of response are you getting? Talk to me about the response.
A lot of excitement. We're still in conversations with several plans across the country. I can't announce them yet, but several have agreed and are interested in integrating
Mission matters, Sandeep. It's okay. You can, drop a... No.
Then I'll get kicked under the table. I'll say, Adam told me I could tell you.
They're not listening to this. It's fine. We only reach 1 million people a month. It's cool. No, it's us. No. I'm not. You're going to send this to your wife. I'm not. I'm joking. Then we're all in trouble. No, I refuse. Okay. So keep that under wraps. Maybe we'll have to bring you back as this thing continues to gain momentum. Yeah. But seriously, congratulations. Like, the point of this to me, and just a major thing that I noticed, is that, like, this was not easy to do. Years doing something new, but possibly being a guiding light that's going to help a lot of people and make it easier for them to get the help they need. I just think it's a great story. Amazing. Sandeep, this has been a lot of fun having you on. I learned a lot. I'm sure my audience did as well. If people want to follow up and they want to learn more, how do they do that? How do they connect with your team?
Well, first and foremost, our company is findoctave.com. The product is at wisematch.com. I write frequently about healthcare policy on LinkedIn and Fast Company, so you can follow me at Sandeep Acharya. I also have a Substack where I go extra deep on things that of interest to me. Yeah, so we're all over and look forward to seeing you.
Wonderful. For everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so that you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me correct. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow button. And Sandeep, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Adam.